Hello, and welcome back to the Colorado Color Company YouTube channel. Hey, what's up everyone? Today we're going to make a dichroic marble. Pretty simple little marble. This one's a little over an inch. We're going to be using Griffin Glass Tools marble mold. Just some North Star onyx, some 10 mil rod, and a little chunk of rainbow full spectrum dichroic cane. Alright, let's get started. Alright, so here we have the finished product. This is made with full spectrum rainbow cane. It's available at coloradocolorcompany.com along with the other tools and materials in this video. The full spectrum has a nice full spectrum of dichroic colors in there, from reds to blues. Alright, well let's fire up the torch. Here we go. First thing I'm going to do here is begin to clean off the cut ends of all the material I'm going to work with. This 10 mil rod here is eventually going to become the lens. And I'm just using some tweezers to get that cut end off. If you leave that cut end, it's just going to create a little bit of scuzz in your attachment, which might make some of the material unusable. You know, if you have a scuzzy seal right where you seal to the dichroic cane, you're going to have to cut back into the dichroic cane just a little bit, and you're going to lose a little bit of material. So this just ensures that you can use the full piece of dichroic cane from end to end with no scuzzy seals. And now I'm going to clean up. This is going to become one of the sides of the handles for the dichroic cane that I'm going to spin up. And the heat's really important on this. If you get it right, you know, you just get a little bit hot and you rip that end off, and you don't have to do any picking with the 6 mil, which it took me a couple here to get it perfect, where I felt like I wanted to pick off a couple of these little nubs with 6 mil. But you see that one went well, just 1-2 picks with the tweezers and you're done. It's all about the heat base. You want to just barely get the end hot and rip that off so there's no cut mark. Again, those cuts will just be scuzzy when you heat them up, and they will heat differently than the nice smooth glass. Alright, so here we have the full spectrum rainbow cane. I'm just going to drop it in the claw grabber here. And then I'm going to wipe the kiln dust off of it on that one side, and I'm going to attach a 10 mil handle. And before I attach the 10 mil handle, I'm actually going to do the same thing. The dichroic cane has a little score mark from where it's cut. And again, if I want to use right up to the end of that cane, you just want to go in and wipe that cut line off. And it's just as easy as getting the edge hot and wiping it with a little 6 mil. And then you get that cut line out of there so your seals will be nice and smooth and have no scuzz in them. You can see the wiping motion there as I'm kind of wiping back towards myself. And now when we go to stick these together, we're going to have a really nice smooth seal where you could almost use this handle on the lens if you wanted to. I don't in this video, but you know, could be an option if you set it up for success like that in the beginning. And then I'm going to show you a little technique. I've been using the bench roller a lot in these videos, but you can also use your L-marver to straighten stuff out. I just wanted to, you know, make this an option for people who didn't have or couldn't afford a bench roller. You can use your L-marver like this. It takes a little more hand skill and a little more time. The bench roller is, you know, saves your arms. You can kind of release the weight and sit back and center things out a lot quicker and easier. But in a pinch, you can use your L marver like that. You can do it straight up in the air too if you sit there and take your time. And here again, I'm just wiping that cut line off of the other side of the dichroic. Nice smooth little wipe motion. Only takes a second to get that stuff off of there. And you can see here I have the 10 mil a little more prioritized in the hotter part of the flame, and the dichroic just kind of heating up in the back. I am working on a 40 mil Zenit today. I do like the Herbie flame for dichroic. It seems to be a little more forgiving than say a GTT flame, but you can obviously do this on a GTT as well. There I am in the roller. Yeah, you can see there how I'm not carrying any weight, and it's a little rest time for your arms where you're not holding them up above your chest, and it just makes centering that stuff a lot less of a headache, and you don't have to pay as much attention, which is kind of nice. So next I'm going to take this is a 1 ounce chunk of dichroic. If you were to buy this off the website, it would be $10. Right now I'm just going to spin this thing up, and I'm going to kind of work from one side over to the other. And you can see I'm kind of riding the edge of the flame there, so I'm not laser beaming heat in there. I'm just giving it what it needs. If you can work in this nice orange glow we have going on here, you won't burn out the dichroic. It is one thing to remember is to not overheat this dichroic. Overheating it will burn the color out of the dichroic, and you will be left with just gray specks, which is a bummer. And it's more about recognizing the heat bases and when you're about to push that dichroic over the edge. So a nice orange glow like that just ensures that you're not getting anything too hot. And as I'm kind of moving back right there, I was getting a little haze from the cooler glass setting up, so I just went and flashed the haze off, and then I go back to progressing forward to my twist. And out of this 1 ounce piece of dichroic, I'll make 4 to 5 1-inch plus marbles, maybe 1.25 inch marbles. So if you think about it, you'll probably have $2 to $2.50 in material in dichroic in one of these marbles, plus, tad bit of clear and however much black you add on the back. So you might have, $3 to $5 in material in this marble, which is something to consider when you go to resell it. You always want to know how much material cost you have in an item so you can price it correctly. And here I'm just kind of evening the whole thing out, so when I go to break it down, the chunks are even. It's a little skinnier on this left hand side, and I'm just kind of gathering that back up, so when I go to break it down in 4ths or 5ths, I get even chunks. And then all your marbles will be even too. If you divide this into equal sections and you're trying to make a batch of marbles that are all said size, you get 4 or 5 equal marbles. So there I have a nice little cylinder going. I'm just gonna let it set up here. Oh, and I was gonna go in the roller, but trying to show you guys that there are ways around it. Here is another way, just rolling it in your hand above the torch ever so precisely. Takes a lot of focus and a lot of energy to keep something straight like that as it's setting up, but it totally can be done, and it's a good skill to have in your set. Maybe you can't travel with your roller, or it's not within reach, or for whatever reason you want to be able to do these other techniques as well. The bench roller is just quick and easy, and I have one at each torch that I work on, and I love them very much. So here I'm using a Firekist Infinity cutting wheel to just add a little score in, and then I'm just going to do a wiggle snap. Basically, I'm just going to add a little stress in there by wiggling it back and forth. And then you can see here I just kind of left the one handle that I was wiggling off axis, and then boop, you can just pop that right off. And there I took about 1/4 ounce of dichroic for this marble. And the infinity cutting wheel, like all the other ways we cut glass, is going to leave just a little rough ring, and you know, that stress and wiggle wears the glass out right there, and you can see how it's wanting to scuzz up. So I'm just going to wipe that too. You always want to wipe these little cut marks and stress marks off so you're working with nice smooth glass. And we always say when people ask, you know, how do I not burn up the dichroic? You want to marver the glass as much as possible to shape, and obviously not overheat it and work in that orange glow. But you'll see as I progress in this video how I marver this chunk of dichroic to manipulate it more than using the flame. And so I'm going to add the onyx here to the back of this marble, and you can see I'm focusing my heat only on the black, and the dichroic's hanging out of the edge of the flame so it won't overheat. And I'm focusing just where I'm adding the black, and I'm starting to create the back of the marble there, and you can see it's a little bit round, and I'm just basically setting the shape there. And you can see I got it as much black as I want with a nice little round back, and that's looking pretty good. And now I'm just going to tear off this handle. And right here, if you didn't wipe the handle and the dichroic cuts, you'd have a scuzzy little ring to deal with, and you would have to remove past it. So taking those precautions, I don't have any of that to fight with, but I still want to pick that clear off right back to the dichroic. So you can see I just picked right back up to the dichroic. And here's the marvering I'm talking about. So a little bit of heat, and basically I'm just going to pancake this dichroic back against that black into a little barrel shape with the least amount of heat possible. And you know, when you do this, you put in the black on one side, you have the dichroic in the middle, and you're putting the lens on the other side, and the whole time you're working with your heat either in the black or in the lens, and you're trying to just ride that dichroic on the outside of the flame so it doesn't catch a lot of direct flame or heat from the flame. And you want it to get that residual heat. You know, being right next to the flame is good enough to like draw some residual heat in there and make it malleable so you can manipulate it. So here I'm going to add the lens with some 10 mil rod, and I'm prioritizing the 10 mil closer to me in the flame so it's hotter, and I'm just flashing that dichroic in the back. You want them both hot. You know, if the dichroic flat part is too cold, it's not going to accept that clear as well. So there I am, just kind of adding a final heat base into it, jumping around. You want it hot, but not too hot as to where you're going to burn out the dichroic. And once they're ready to go, you just stick them together. And then you can see here the dichroic's riding right out of the flame, and I'm focusing my flame on that 10 mil as I'm gathering the lens, just the same way as I did the back with the black. And you can see the whole time, you can see the dichroic over there, so it's not getting beat up by the torch, but it is in a general area where it's receiving residual heat, and it can, you know, hold that heat base to being manipulated here in the next step. And just like the back, I, you know, kind of set the round front. So here you can see I got a basic shape. And again, you know, the glass blowing is about little steps. You don't want to try to form this marble all in one shot. You'd have to get everything really hot and, you know, maybe burn up the dichroic. So do a little shaping on the back, a little shaping on the front, and get it close, and then we take the whole thing and make it into a sphere or a marble. So there I'm just picking off the excess black off the back that I don't want. So now I'm going to focus all of my heat into this black, and I'm going to use gravity to slump this black back towards that lens, heating up the graphite marble mold just a little bit. That also cleans it out. Sometimes it'll get dust or glass collected in it, so I always just flash it in the flame. It's more of a cleaning than a heating. The marble, when you go into the mold, is going to be so hot that you're not going to have to worry about thermal shock. You're immediately going to heat up that marble mold with the molten glass. But sitting on your bench like that, you get dust and scraps of glass that you can pick up. So always like to clean my marble molds out before I use them. It can be a bummer when you pick up a piece of glass you weren't expecting to out of your marble mold. And here I'm just using gravity to slump that black back into a sphere shape. And I'm using a V-notch and a paddle. We have paddles on the website that are available with the V-notch. It's called the Ultimate Paddle from Griffin Glass. And, you know, we use this technique a lot in the shop. It kind of saves your hands from getting tired. It's a nice, easy way to roll something a lot at a low angle. And you can see there, that is getting closer to the sphere that we're shooting for. And I lost that high angle camera dark view at some point in here, which I was kind of bummed about because I wanted to show you that in the other view, but hopefully you get the idea. So now we're using the marble mold, and you know, it's just a lot of spinning and a lot of different angles. You can use them stationary on the bench, but this one has a handle, so you know, get up in my face, and using a lot of angles and a lot of spinning. And you start with the bigger hole first. The bigger hole just kind of sets your general shape, and the way to use a marble mold is actually to progress down the holes, and the smaller holes are going to refine the spherical shape as you move down them. So here I'm going to go into the smaller marble mold, and this is actually going to round it out using the lip of that circle more than the inside of the mold. And the little one's just a little too small, but throw it in there anyways. So now I have the back of that marble rounded out. And at this point, the dichroic's fairly safe in there because you flattened it so far. There's only a little ring around the edge that will want to burn up. You know, the core of that marble is going to be really hard to get hot. So just as long as you work both sides at this point, you can build a little bit more heat into it because you've protected the dichroic with the black and the clear. So now I'm just going to use that onyx I used to back this as a punty, just so if I knock it off, there's the same color there and it'll just melt right in. So now we're going to remove the lens. And I'm really close to my marble round sphere shape here, so I want to take all of that little trash right off the front. If you were to leave that and try to melt it in, it's going to resize your marble, and to take that trash and put it into the lens would be a lot of heat and a lot of work. So I'm going to rip that all right back. You can see the line of the circle that I'm going for is already basically set. So I'm going to get as close as that as possible. Use a little gravity with some angle here. More marvering, you know, just setting basic shapes. So before you go to the marble mold, you want it to be, you know, close. Marble mold isn't going to fix all your problems. You can kind of use the bigger holes in the marble mold to jam a marble in there and get it to a basic shape, But really the smaller holes, you want them smaller than your marble, and you're actually using that rim to round out your marble. So here we go, just setting a basic shape here with the bigger one. And you can see my punny's not getting hot too. There's just that little bit of black where the punny is, so that doesn't become a hot seal and I don't have to deal with it later. So, you know, the flame control there is important when you have seals that you intend on popping off. So here I am refining the sphere in the smaller marble mold hole. And lots of angles, lots of spinning. And it looks like we got a nice round marble going. Give it a little look. And then the marble mold is going to leave some tooling marks. So once you're done with the mold, you have to come in and get the surface of this marble hot, and that will just really smooth everything out. Oh, here I am. I realized the camera for the dark view turned off, so we'll get the dark view back for about 2 seconds here. There it is. Yeah, you can see the dichroic in there, and I'm just giving this marble one last polish. Now it's a nice round marble with smooth lens, smooth everything. It's looking pretty good. Nice and round, good sparkle. The out of focus here really helps see the sparkle. If this was in focus, it wouldn't look as interesting. So now I'm just use the marble mold to hold these while I polish off the back. Just pop that punny off. And then we're gonna get the little mini Smith torch or a jeweler torch. This torch has a hornet tip on it. The hornet tips are made in Denver. Sweet little tip if you can get them. I know back in the day they were small batch and they were, you know, harder to come by, but should be available somewhere now. Great little tip to add on to the jeweler torch. So there you can see I just polished out the back where the punny was, and I rolled it in there to see the contour of the marble, if it fit the contour of the marble mold. Because you might have a little divot there and you might have to heat it up, but pretty good cold seal, and you can see I have a nice sphere. And there's the end product. Nice big flaky rainbow dichroic. So thanks for watching. Hopefully this helps you in your glass journey. Have a good one.